Right.
Hmm.
What do you think is the most common?
Like themes. Yeah, definitely some themes that stand out. I work with men and fathers. Being a therapist, often I get people coming to my office for very specific reasons. Some common themes I hear, especially working with men and fathers, is often how alone and isolated they feel for
Oh,
various reasons. A lot of it has to do with masculinity or unhealthy, unbalanced masculinity, or this fun term, toxic masculinity. But often there's these unhealthy, unbalanced, how men have been raised, how boys have been raised, and how society has impacted them. In some ways, in positive ways, but in a lot of ways, when I get them coming in, I think a lot of the isolation and loneliness comes from this idea that, well, men can't have, shouldn't have certain feelings. They have to be a certain way. They have to be quote unquote strong, and strong is very near, strength in this view is very narrowed, and all the classic like boys don't cry, you should just figure it out, pull up your figure yourself up by your bootstraps and keep going, and so a lot of these men are trying to keep going, living life this way, but they kind of struggle and suffer in silence because, well, I can't tell anyone how I'm feeling because I wouldn't be a man anymore. I can't get help because then I'm not a man anymore. So they kind of get stuck in this kind of catch-22 of they need help and they need support, but then struggle because I can't go out. So they kind of get stuck in this place until eventually something big enough happens that they come in to see me. And not always, not every guy, but it's a very common theme. And I can say that there's not a week that goes by that I don't, if I get a guy in my office, a new guy in my office every week, that at least one of them is not talking to some degree how the idea of being masculine in a man, how that is in opposition to being vulnerable and having certain feelings, and how they often don't know how to find comfort in relationships. They look at and seek it elsewhere. So these are some of the main themes I see time and time and time and time and time and time again.